The Hells Angels has been deemed by the Clark County Grand Jury to be a criminal syndicate. All the defendants in this case that are currently before Your Honor today have been charged with racketeering.
Hells Angels Motorcycle Club has not been found by a jury in the state of Nevada to be.
The Las Vegas chapter president of the Hells Angels, Richard DeVries, was taken into custody yesterday. This is on additional felony charges, including racketeering. This was in connection to the shooting on the US 95 in Henderson Memorial Day weekend. Hells Angels members or affiliates now face charges. Police say the shooting was allegedly between rival outlaw motorcycle gangs, the Hells Angels and Vagos.
Richard DeVries, 67 years old, had already posted $75,000 bail in June connected to the May shooting on US 95. Judge Tierra Jones ordered DeVries held on $250,000 in court on new charges connected to a superseding indictment.
Here are 6 Hells Angels reacting to life sentences. This is Joseph Lancia, a man notorious for his position as the president of the Hells Angels in Rhode Island, found himself in a dire situation. In a courtroom packed with members of the motorcycle club, their full-patch jackets on display, Lancia made a pivotal decision. After striking a deal with the prosecutors, he chose to change his plea, leading to a significant turn of events.
First tonight, breaking news in a case that Target 12 investigators have been tracking from the beginning. The head of the Rhode Island chapter of the Hells Angels has changed his plea and will serve.
Appearing before Associate Justice Kristen Rogers in Providence Superior Court, Lancia pleaded no contest to the charge of felony battery, in addition to carrying a gun without a license. Remarkably, the more severe allegations of discharging a firearm when committing a crime of violence and invasion with intent to commit a slaying were dismissed as part of the agreement. Nevertheless, Lancia's fate had been sealed. He would be sentenced to serve 5 years in prison, with an additional 10 years of probation looming over his future.
Do not appear in a timely manner, and I'm talking 5 minutes late, or if there are any violations of your release.
Joe, why did your client change his plea?
We thought it was in his best interest to do so, and he wanted.
Is there anything that you would like to say, sir?
No.
A 5-year full sentence, all of which is to be served at the ACI. There is a no contact order for the protection of Richard Starnino for the duration of 8 years.
The case against Lancia revolved around a troubling incident that occurred in June 2019. According to police reports, Lancia allegedly fired a gun at a truck driven by Richard Starnino, a former prospect of the biker club who had become embroiled in an ongoing dispute with Lancia. Surveillance footage played a pivotal role in the case, revealing Lancia firing shots at Starnino's vehicle as it passed by the Hells Angels Providence headquarters. Astonishingly, the damning evidence was captured by the very security system of the club's clubhouse.
The Hells Angel members, all of them, were in high alert at this point, knowing his history to carry fire.
The gravity of Lancia's predicament became evident when the 9 original charges against him were tallied. If found guilty at trial, he faced a staggering maximum sentence of 61 years in prison. However, his immediate concern lay in the impending deadline set by Justice Rogers. On February 18th, Lancia would be required to return to court to commence his sentence at the adult correctional institutions. Rogers made it clear that any violation of the release conditions would result in an unforgiving punishment, a full 18-year sentence. But this next one left everyone speechless. In a shocking turn of events, the authorities have made a breakthrough in the case involving a slaying and an attack on an off-duty police officer during a Chris Stapleton concert at Shoreline Amphitheater last year. 5 individuals have been apprehended and taken into custody for their alleged involvement in these heinous crimes. The incident occurred in June of 2022, when police received a distressing report of an unresponsive man near the stage. Upon arriving at the scene, law enforcement officers discovered an injured concertgoer, identified as Juan Gonzalez, 41 years old and hailing from Bakersfield. Prompt medical attention was provided by the Mountain View Fire Department, and the victim was subsequently rushed to a nearby hospital. Tragically, despite the efforts to save him, Gonzalez succumbed to his injuries a week later.
Very well done, and we're very relieved that we're one step closer to some justice for the victims in these cases. It was an absolute tragedy. You know, everything is done to keep Shoreline safe.
Police.
However, the violence did not stop there. It appears that during the concert, An off-duty police officer was viciously attacked by a group of men in the vicinity of the portable restrooms. Following the assault, the assailant swiftly left the area, leaving the officer in a state of shock and distress. Recognizing the severity of the situation, the police initiated an investigation that very night. Over the course of the following days, crucial information emerged. The involved parties were reported to have known each other and were allegedly associated with the notorious Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, an outlaw motorcycle gang with a history linked to illicit activities. Armed with this knowledge, the authorities intensified their efforts to bring the perpetrators to justice. Eventually, 5 suspects were identified and subsequently targeted for arrest. With the collaboration of local and federal law enforcement agencies, the Mountain View Police Department executed search warrants at the suspects' residences and the Hells Angels clubhouse in San Francisco. Astonishingly, each of the accused individuals was apprehended without resistance. The 5 men charged with various offenses related to these crimes are Dominic Gordudo, 33, from San Francisco, accused of dissuading a witness; Julia Moran, 43, from San Mateo, charged with aggression likely to cause serious bodily injury; David Wiesenhaven, 38, from San Francisco, facing similar charges of aggression; Logan Winterton, 37, also from San Francisco, charged with first-degree assault likely to cause serious bodily injury; and Raymond Cunnan, 42, from Pleasant Hill, accused of dissuading a witness and aggression likely to cause serious bodily injury.
All that work, all of those partnerships and abilities to be able to reach out to our law enforcement family and seek guidance and assistance and help. Confrontations took place. At this time, we're still conducting interviews, but those confrontations obviously led to what we have now, which is an assault. And then
This is Neil Cantrell, a 62-year-old longtime biker and the leader of the gang, was the main perpetrator behind the 2016 extortion plot. The court recognized his role as the mastermind and sentenced him to a decade in prison. His co-accused, his own son Stephen, 38, and fellow Hells Angel Robert Lowry, 49, received slightly shorter sentences of 6 and 9 years, respectively. The victim, Robert Poole, had been a loyal associate of Neil Cantrell for over a dozen years, growing cannabis on his behalf. But in December 2014, Poole decided he wanted out of the illegal pot business. He traveled to Edmonton to inform Cantrell and even offered him the growing equipment as a gesture of goodwill. However, he received no response until 2016 when Cantrell contacted him, arranging a meeting near Hope. Expecting a peaceful discussion, Poole arrived at a roadside pullout, unaware of the horrors that awaited him. Neil Cantrell, along with his son Stephen and Robert Lowry, ambushed Poole. They bound him and subjected him to a brutal beating. Then they took him to his own house, where they attempted to coerce him into signing over his property. Their sinister plans were interrupted when the RCMP officers arrived at the scene. They discovered Poole, battered and bloodied, suffering from cuts, broken bones, and a burn to his forehead. He was rushed to the hospital for immediate medical attention. During the trial, Justice Ward Branch acknowledged the profound impact the incident had on Robert Poole, who was forced to enter the witness protection program for his safety. Branch emphasized that Neil Cantrell was the driving force behind the extortion, having a prior business relationship with Poole and orchestrating the meeting at the pullout. The sentencing hearing revealed that Cantrell displayed no remorse for his heinous crimes. Furthermore, Branch noted that Neil Cantrell wielded significant control over his sons Stephen and Robert Lowry, who was an aspiring member of the Hells Angels at the time, but has now achieved full patch status. Robert Lowry, prior to the incident, had a successful history as a businessman until a car accident in 2009 derailed his life. He had no previous criminal record, but the judge labeled him as the muscle behind the extortion scheme. Stephen Cantrell, like Lowry, had no prior criminal history and played a comparatively limited role in the violence of 2016. Emery Pitt Martin, a 61-year-old man from St. Anne de Madawaska, found himself in Bathurst Provincial Court facing a grim fate. Having pleaded guilty to cocaine trafficking and acting for the benefit of a criminal organization, Martin was about to learn the consequences of his actions. However, due to potential COVID-19 symptoms, he joined the court proceedings via video conference. His affiliation with the notorious outlaw motorcycle gang, the Hells Angels, had caught the attention of the RCMP, who identified him as a longtime member involved in drug trafficking within Quebec. The prosecution and defense initially sought an 8-year prison sentence for Martin, but Judge Denis LeBlanc, taking into account the time he had already spent in custody since his arrest in 2018, decided to reduce the sentence. Martin had endured a total of 1,209 days in prison, during which he had faced long periods of solitary confinement, according to LeBlanc. Moreover, his right to privacy had been stripped away by the constant surveillance camera in his cell. Although the judge didn't specify the exact duration of Martin's time in solitary confinement at the Dalhousie Regional Correctional Center, it was clear that his conditions had been far from ideal. As a result, his sentence was reduced by approximately 5 years, accounting for the time already served. Martin's case was part of a larger operation called Operation J Thunder, an RCMP investigation that targeted the cocaine trade in northern New Brunswick's Acadian Peninsula and the Restigouche, Madawaska, and Victoria counties. This operation was linked to a broader investigation known as Project Objection, led by the Sûreté du Québec, which resulted in the arrest of over 60 individuals across Quebec and other provinces. Within these operations, Martin's close ties to the Hells Angels made him a prime suspect responsible for importing drugs into the northwestern region of the province. Interestingly, none of the other individuals charged were associated with the Hells Angels, as confirmed by the police.
Dollars in drug money, handguns, and assault rifles were seized after RCMP raided a Kelowna Hells Angels clubhouse.
The investigation began in January of 2011 and initially focused upon the evidence suggesting a marijuana production and trafficking organization. The second phase of the project was developed when RCMP investigators gathered evidence indicating that the import and traffic 500 kilograms of cocaine. RCMP effectively matched and exceeded every layer of sophistication the accused attempted to employ in their failed bid to escape prosecution.
The extent of Martin's involvement in drug trafficking became apparent when it was revealed that he had imported a staggering 96 kilos of cocaine during the summers of 2016 and 2017. Facing a total of 10 charges, including conspiracy to traffic cocaine, possession of cocaine for trafficking, laundering the proceeds of crime, and instructing the commission of an offense for a criminal organization, Martin's crimes painted a bleak picture. However, Martin's criminal history was not limited to his recent offenses. Back in the summer of 2015, he had pleaded guilty to a conspiracy charge at the Guan courthouse in Montreal. He openly admitted his participation in the Hells Angels' infamous conflict with rival organized crime groups, which lasted from 1994 to 2002. This deadly feud, often referred to as Quebec's biker gang war, claimed the lives of over 160 individuals, including innocent victims. Martin received a sentence of time served for his involvement, equivalent to a 15-year prison term. Moreover, Martin's record included a significant conviction related to a conspiracy to smuggle 27 tons of hashish into Canada in 1990. Working alongside several accomplices, Martin played a pivotal role in this operation, which resulted in the largest single seizure of hashish in Canada at that time. His parole records from that sentence revealed that Martin had been associated with the Hells Angels since 1997, further solidifying his deep-rooted connection to the criminal organization. But this next one is even worse. Richard DeVries, the 67-year-old leader of the Hells Angels chapter in Las Vegas, found himself in deep trouble as a judge ordered his arrest on upgraded charges of racketeering and other offenses.
The Las Vegas chapter president of the Hells Angels, Richard DeVries, was taken into custody yesterday. This is on additional felony charges, including racketeering. This was in connection to the shooting on the US 95 in Henderson Memorial Day weekend. Hells Angels members or affiliates now face charges. Police say the shooting was allegedly between rival outlaw motorcycle gangs, the Hells Angels, and Vaga.
This decision came in connection to a shocking incident on a Las Vegas highway where 6 people were shot. DeVries had already posted bail of $75,000 back in June, following the May shooting on US 95. However, Judge Tiara Jones, unimpressed by the seriousness of the charges, raised the stakes and ordered DeVries to be held on $250,000 bail due to the superseding indictment. But DeVries wasn't the only one facing a legal storm. 7 out of 8 Hells Angels members or affiliates found themselves in hot water, with more than 30 charges levied against them. These charges included conspiracy to commit fatal harm, assisting a criminal gang, battery, and racketeering, among others.
So the concern is that there's retaliatory shootings going back and forth between the two jurisdictions and between the two clubs.
And I can't predict the future, but I can kind of control it. I am fearful that something is going to happen. And when shooting on the highway that I take every day, in a neighborhood where
The gang prospects, Stephen Allo, aged 46, and Russell Smith, aged 26, had already faced charges related to the Memorial Day weekend shooting that had brought the major freeway to a standstill outside Las Vegas. The bikers had embarked on a ride through Arizona and southern Nevada, but their journey took a dark turn when the shooting occurred. A grand jury was presented with video evidence showing members of the Hells Angels at a Henderson Harley-Davidson dealership shortly after the incident. 2 weeks later, Henderson police stumbled upon 2 abandoned motorcycles in a parking lot, leading them to process the vehicles for DNA and fingerprints. Surveillance footage in the area revealed the bikers driving into the lot and leaving the motorcycles behind. As the investigation unfolded, it became apparent that the May shooting was a clash between the Hells Angels and their rival gang, the Vagos. Prosecutors suspected that the incident might have been an act of retaliation for a previous slaying involving the two groups in California. DeVries, Allo, and Smith, along with their cohorts, stood before the judge in court. Allo was detained at the Henderson Detention Center for an unrelated charge, while DeVries' attorney assured the court that his client would surrender to authorities. The gravity of the situation prompted prosecutors to level racketeering charges against the group, claiming that they were part of a criminal syndicate.
The Hells Angels has been deemed by the Clark County Grand Jury to be a criminal syndicate. All the defendants in this case that are currently before Your Honor today have been charged with racketeering.
Hells Angels Motorcycle Club has not been found by a jury in the state of Nevada to be.
With the bail stipulation prohibiting communication between the defendants and other Hells Angels members lifted, the stage was set for a dramatic bail hearing. This is Maurice "Mom" Boucher, once the most feared crime boss in Quebec as a Hells Angel, dominated the criminal underworld with his intimidating presence. However, his reign of power came to an end when he was imprisoned in May 2002. Boucher faced numerous charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, attempted slayings, and conspiracy to commit a slaying. The notorious biker gang leader received a life sentence for the 1997 killings of prison guards Pierre Rondeau and Diane Levine. These murders were part of the violent biker wars that plagued Quebec during that time. The biker wars took a devastating toll on the community, with the 1995 death of 11-year-old Daniel DeRoche in an explosion linked to the conflict sparking widespread outrage. Unfortunately, Maurice Boucher's story didn't end with his incarceration. At the age of 69, he battled throat cancer. Shockingly, he refused treatment for the disease for months, worsening his condition. Eventually, Boucher was transferred from his super maximum security facility to a nearby facility that offered palliative care. Despite this support, he succumbed to his illness, passing away from natural causes. But do you think those Hells Angels got what they deserved? Let us know in the comment section below.